My name is Kelly, and I have an unhealthy obsession with serial killers.
All right, taking over for Kelly again. It is King Size Killers and Bite Size Bits. Yep, it's me, Grant's back. Kelly has to sit another one out, but if you enjoy her more, which I understand, she'll be back, hopefully next month. And in the meantime, you got me talking about your favorite serial killers, or maybe serial killers that you don't even know about yet. So for this one, I picked two again that were unsolved, is what I went for. I didn't try to go for another Ohio thing because that didn't really work out last time. So yeah, this one is more for unsolved killers that are believed to still be on the loose. So let's get into it. The Long Island Serial Killer. All right, so the Long Island, I can't say that. The Long Island Serial Killer. It's referred to as Lisk as well. Get it? L-I-S-K. Or the Craigslist Ripper, which is kind of a better sounding name, I think, than the Long Island Serial Killer. It's pretty easy name, but the Craigslist Ripper is ripping through people. So the way that this started was that there was a prostitute. Once again, we're dealing with prostitutes, I think, for the third one in a row now. A prostitute named Shannon Gilbert disappeared on May 1st, 2010. But that night, right before she disappeared, she called the police and said she was yelling, she was distraught, and she kept yelling, "They're trying to kill me." I guess that night she had also had a client and had left that house. He was brought in for questioning and maybe a suspect, but he was released after that. There was no wrongdoing. But yeah, back to that, or back to the night that she disappeared. They were trying to look for her, as far as I can find, but they could not find any of her remains or any proof that she had been murdered. But in December of that same year, 2010, a police officer and his dog were on a routine cadaver training exercise, whatever the hell that means, and they discovered skeleton remains of a woman disintegrating in a burlap sack. And then that same day, 3 more bodies were found. 4 women were found in total that day. Their names were Amber Costello, Melissa Bartholomew, I think I'm saying that right, Maureen Brainerd Barnes, and Megan Waterman. And all these women, they all had something in common. They all solicited sex. They put out sex ads on Craigslist, hence the Craigslist Ripper. He seemed to have a theme of the women that he murdered. A year later, 4 more bodies were found in Gilgo Beach, or in the Gilgo Beach area, and it wasn't until a year and a half later that they actually found the remains of the original woman, Shannon Gilbert. The remains of Shannon Gilbert were found in a marsh about a half a mile from where she had disappeared. A week earlier, they had found some of her clothes and belongings in that same vicinity. Police say that she accidentally drowned after stumbling into the marsh. I don't know what that means. I don't know if they're trying to say that somehow drugs were involved and she wasn't killed. But at this point, if you're finding what I'm counting like 8 bodies or remains, I guess, and then Gilbert also had the same profession, she was a prostitute just like everybody else, you would kind of assume that that's what happened to her. She got killed by the same guy. Her mother even disagrees, saying that she made a 911 call that night and she was fearing for her life, and she was banging on residents' doors in that neighborhood. She seemed very fearful. And then almost a decade later, 4 more bodies were found. and the body count has climbed to more than 10, and they're all linked back to the same guy, the Lisk, or Long Island serial killer. No arrests have been made, though, and as of right now, the killer is still out there and at large. Now, Gilbert is a weird... Like, the reason why I keep coming back to Gilbert is because it all started with her, and the case with her, the police seem to kind of flip-flop back and forth with their story. They say that she died of natural causes, but also the tape with her 911 call will not be released because they feel as though it could jeopardize the investigation. But if she did die of natural causes, then there'd be you wouldn't worry about the investigation because it has nothing to do with these deaths. But in her autopsy report, it showed signs of strangulation, so I don't know what they're trying to hide, if they are trying to hide anything, or just trying to make sure that no information gets out that would help the killer. I don't know how these things work. I'm a simple civilian. The only lead they have so far in this entire case, I've seen a lot of names, but everybody was kind of dismissed or had an alibi. The one person who did not, though, was a man named John Bitteroloff. I think I'm saying Bitteroloff. He was convicted of beating 2 prostitutes. There's the red flag there. To death in the early 90s, like 93 and 94, something like that. He wasn't put in jail until 2017. And there was a forensic profiler named John Kelly who said that the killer has a strong sadistic side, and he got upset with the idea that he was being disobeyed. I guess one thing they proved, I don't know how you prove this unless, I'm guessing the families said it later, is that he instructed the victims not to bring their cell phones to meet with him. He would answer an ad on Craigslist and get them to meet him and tell them not to bring their cell phones. And then they did, which made him very upset. And so upset that after he murdered these women, he used the phones to call the families and, I guess, taunt them was the word that I read. This case has kind of come back recently in the press. As of January 16th of 2020, the police held a press conference showing new evidence. It was a photo of a belt and with some initials in it that said WH or HM, depending on how you held the belt upside down, and they're trying to see if somehow there's somebody with those initials that would use the belt. The belt was used in the murders to strangle his victims. But as of right now, there's no new news on the Long Island serial killer. He is still out there, still at large. And you drive by it every day if you live out there where these gruesome murders happen. I'm sure that anybody who lives in Long Island is very well aware. The Bible Belt Strangler. Alright, so I actually had to look up what the Bible Belt was for this one. It's basically southern United States from the Atlantic Ocean all the way over kind of into Texas, the southern part of, southeastern part of the United States. And in 1982, or from 1982 to 1985, the BBS, I guess is the shorthand, the Bible Belt Strangler, killed at least 6 people that we know about. The common theme here was that all the victims were redheaded women who were found on the side of the highway. Now, my question would be, I travel a lot, I drive a lot, and I've not really seen that many people on the side of the freeway. How you're able to find so many women with the same trait, having red hair, just being on the side of the freeway, kind of blows my mind that this happened. The first one was February 13th, 1983. A middle-aged woman was found alongside a highway in Wetzel County, West Virginia. Given the snow on the ground and the footprints in the area, it was concluded that she was murdered in a different location and brought to where she was found. She was murdered 2 days before and found unclothed. She was never identified, but she had auburn hair that had some red undertones. That's all the information we had about that one. September 16th, 1984, a 28-year-old woman was found alongside I-40 in West Memphis, Arkansas. She remained unidentified for over a year until her estranged family in West Virginia and her fingerprints identified her as Lisa Nichols. Her body was found 9 months after she was strangled, and she was found wearing only a sweater. She had strawberry blonde hair. January 1st, 1985, the remains of a woman between the ages of 17 and 30 were found in Campbell County, Tennessee, along I-75. She was pregnant at the time of her death, and her cause of death was undetermined at the time, but it was determined that she did have red hair. In 2018, the woman was identified as Tina Farmer of Indiana, and recent developments determined that her cause of death was strangulation. On March 31st, 1985, the remains of a woman was found in Cheatham County, Tennessee. She was found clothed off of I-24, and she was one of the older victims, between the ages of 31 and 40, and she also had red hair. Not much is known about this victim because she had not been identified, and her estimated time of death was 3 to 5 months before her remains were found, which was evident when the investigators only found skeletal remains due to decomposition. April 1st, 1985, a woman's body was found in a refrigerator in Knox County, Kentucky, off of I-25. The woman was unclothed but had a necklace with an eagle and a heart pendant. There were reports that the woman was earlier on CB radio trying to get a ride to North Carolina. She was between the age of 24 and 35. She had short red hair, and on October 1st, 2018, it was announced that she was identified as Epsie Pilgrim, that's a name, of North Carolina. April 3rd, 1985, the remains of another victim was found in Campbell County, Tennessee, off of I-75. Unlike the other victims, she was likely between the age of 9 and 15 when she had died, making her the youngest victim. She was likely killed between 1981 and 1984, and her hair color, height, and eye color could not be determined. I'm guessing she had red hair. There is an ongoing debate on whether she is a victim of the Bible Belt Strangler. Well, maybe not. I could be wrong about this one because I'm about to read the last one, but what I could find was, description-wise, on all the people that were found dead, there are 7, so maybe she doesn't count as one since they've only credited 6 to this one single person. And the last one I have is April 14th, 1985. The body of a woman was found in Greene County, Tennessee. She had died from severe blunt force trauma and stabbing. Police were able to fingerprint her, but could not find an identity for her. She had light brown or blonde hair with red highlights. In November 2018, she was identified as Elizabeth Lamotti of New Hampshire. So that one, I guess he doesn't even discriminate. Doesn't have to be real red hair. The victims who died by being suffocated or strangled, they were found close to major roadways, and police believe the victims were mostly hitchhikers and sex workers, which made it harder to identify them and less likely for families to report them missing. So once again, we're back on the prostitutes, sex workers. I guess in people's minds, it's easier to kill them because people might not want to look for them, and you might get away with it because you don't have anybody searching for what you did wrong. As of 2018, there were no leads and this case was considered cold, but the amazing part of this story is that a group of high school students in Elizabethtown, Tennessee, created a profile for the killer and actually gave it to an FBI profiler. The class concluded that he was a white truck driver, and he killed as he drove up and down the road, and the killing may have stopped because he stopped driving. They didn't show any evidence of sexual assault, and they theorized that he might have killed them because they were harmful to society. He did not believe, I guess, in what they were doing, so he decided that he wanted to end it. The class said that the killer is still alive and lives in East Tennessee, but they are still working on cracking the case. So if you live in East Tennessee, watch out.